People are sent to these correctional institutions mainly by a state sentence for a crime they have committed. Let's try to look at places of detention from the inside and imagine the most terrible prisons that contain the most dangerous criminals. Bangkwang Prison. The Bangkwang Maximum Security Prison in Nonthaburi Province in the northern suburbs of Bangkok is one of the 10 worst prisons in the world. The prison is also known to Western audiences by the informal name of the Bangkok Hilton. Thanks to the 1989 Australian action-packed 6-part drama Bangkok Hilton starring Nicole Kidman. This facility is notorious for overcrowding and hellish conditions for prisoners. Death row prisoners and long-term convicts ranging from 25 years to life imprisonment are held here. Among those serving time in Bangkwang Prison there are many foreigners. As a rule, the vast majority of foreigners end up in Bangkok Hilton Prison for drugs. The prison was built by the Chinese in the 1930s. Most of the rules introduced almost 100 years ago are still in effect today. The most striking example is the steel shackles on the prisoners' feet. Every prisoner wears them for the first 3 months, and death row criminals wear shackles at all times. This practice was officially abandoned in 2013, but in fact some prisoners still wear heavy shackles. Pencil. Carandiru is a Brazilian prison, one of the largest prison complexes in South America, located in São Paulo. The prison became famous as the most terrible not only in Brazil, but throughout the world. What a nightmare happened there is known only to those who served time here. There were about 10,000 prisoners here at the same time. The history of the sinister prison was deplorable. In 1992, there was a bloody massacre that left 111 prisoners dead. The 20-year trial in this case caused a storm of indignation among the population of the country. In 2002, the prison was closed and demolished, leaving only one block of Carandiru as a museum exhibit. Subsequently, a park was built on the site of the prison complex. Kamatai Maximum Security Prison. This prison in Nairobi, Kenya, was originally built to house a maximum of 1,400 prisoners, but currently houses a shocking 3,600 people living in extremely harsh conditions. Many political prisoners were held in this prison. The infamous G block of this prison is the worst of all. Rapes and beatings often occur here. In addition, in this block people live in inhumane living conditions. Prisoners have to carry buckets of water every day as there is no reliable source of water, which means maintaining basic frequencies is absolutely impossible. You can only get out with Kamatai alive if you have a serious psychological disorder. Camp 1391. Camp 1391, nicknamed Israel's Guantanamo Bay, is a prison camp for members of the Israel Defense Forces who are considered high-risk convicts. It is located in northern Israel, just an hour's drive from Tel Aviv. The existence of the prison remained a secret to society until 2003, possibly due to the incredibly inhumane treatment of prisoners. People who served time there reported sexual abuse, torture, tiny cells with no light, no running water and long periods of solitary confinement. Israeli authorities claim that the prison has not been used since 2006, but given how much effort they have put into keeping the prison a secret, even photoshopping it out of official satellite images on the internet, there is no guarantee that it will remain closed. Besides, no one will even know about it. Until, of course, people discover themselves behind the walls of this prison. La Subscriber. The La Subinenta prison is located in the city of Maracaibo, Venezuela. There is only one guard for every 150 prisoners. The prison was designed for 15,000 people, which does not prevent the Venezuelan authorities from holding 25,000 lawbreakers there. The conditions in the prison are disgusting. The cells are overcrowded with prisoners and thousands of people are forced to sleep on makeshift hooks. One gets the impression that no one here has ever heard of hygiene. Diseases such as cholera are incredibly common in Las Planeta due to total unsanitary conditions. Corruption is also rampant. Wealthier prisoners bribe guards to give them better working conditions in the prison. They can buy a large cell and a hearty dinner, while the poor prisoners are doomed to a miserable existence. In 1994, a war broke out between two rival gangs resulting in the death of 108 prisoners. Vladimir Central. The famous prison has existed in Vladimir since 1783, and initially it was used to hold the most dangerous criminals, political prisoners, and recidivists. So Catherine II ordered it to be built specifically for watered prisoners. In Soviet times, this tradition was preserved. Enemies of the people, Trotskyists, White Guards, and persons suspected of anti-Soviet activities served their sentences here. It is interesting that the Central is not a popular name invented by prisoners, but a completely official name for the central prison in the Russian Empire. The minimum sentence in this prison is 10 years, and many prisoners are there for life. Conditions in the prison have been compared to Russian torture prisons. Prisoners are often beaten on a daily basis, both by guards and other fellow sufferers. One of the prisoners even wrote a letter using his own blood, but got no results. Convicts who try to defend themselves find themselves in an even more deplorable situation than those who do not try to do so. Guantanamo. The most famous U.S. prison for especially dangerous criminals and terrorists is located not in the States, but in Cuba. In 1932, the lease of its territory became indefinite. Before this, the fee was 2,000 pence per year. The prison itself has been operating since 2002. During this time, from 700 to several thousand people passed through it. Former prisoners claim that the necessary information was extorted from them using brutal methods. The interrogations lasted 12 hours. During this time, they were not allowed to go to the restroom, they played deafening music, and they beat us severely. Guantanamo Bay also houses the so-called X-ray camp, a camp for Taliban prisoners of war. The prisoners here live in metal nets, which are covered with transparent film when it rains. In order to break the militants, all conditions have been created mentally and physically. Pelican Bay Prison. Pelican Bay Maximum Security Prison is located near the town of Crescent in Del Norte County, California. 111 hectares are allocated to contain the most dangerous criminals in California. The prison opened in 1989 in a remote forested area, far from the major cities of California. Originally designed to house 2,550 inmates, the prison has housed 3,311 inmates since 2006, almost all of whom are classified as high-risk prisoners to society. Convicts are kept in an isolated cell for 22.5 hours a day, and only go out into a small covered courtyard for 1 hour. The highlight of the prison is their distinctive buildings, where 1,400 of the state's most hardened criminals are kept in complete isolation. There were several hunger strikes in the prison, and there were even lawsuits against inhumane solitary confinement. But the order, nevertheless, remains the same. Tadmor Prison. Located in Syria, very close to the ancient Palmyra, the Tadmor prison was destroyed by ISIS terrorists in 2015. Despite this, she can be considered the world record holder for torture and execution today. In the dungeons of Tadmor, people were poisoned with toxic substances, pumped with heavy drugs, hung by their feet, starved, thirsty and hungry, and killed in all possible ways. In June 1980, the president ordered the murder of all prisoners as retaliation for the attempt on his life by the Muslim Brotherhood. The massacre, which lasted 2 weeks, claimed the lives of approximately 800 to 2,400 prison inmates. In 2001, human rights activists achieved the closure of Tadmor, but in 2011 the prison again opened its iron doors to convicts. The conditions of detention under President Bashar al-Assad are no different from those in which people were kept under his father. True, mass executions are no longer allowed. Gitarama. Gitarama is the central prison of the city of Kigali, the capital of the African state of Rwanda. The prison itself is designed to hold no more than 500 prisoners at a time, but in different years and according to various sources there were from 6,000 to 8,000 people in it. Some cells are a brick room measuring 1 meter by 1 meter. Such cells do not have a ceiling or basic hygiene and living conditions. Due to their small size, they do not even have a bed and people have to sleep standing or sitting. Lack of convenience and overcrowding of people leads to unsanitary conditions and disease. The inability to sit or lie down leads to leg disease. And the fact that people also have to stand to relieve their natural needs and continue to stand in excrement leads to infection and amputation of the limb. Rikers. Dirty, dangerous, dark, depressing. This is what the inmates say about Rikers Prison. It is America's second largest prison and is notorious for its culture of violence, a system actively supported by correctional officers. Reports of inmate abuse at Rikers have surfaced over the years. The guards beat prisoners, violated human rights, and were convicted of a crime of a sexual nature. Over the years, the situation only worsened. The administration turned a blind eye to the violation and inhumane conditions were considered the norm. Former prisoners say living conditions at Rikers also leave much to be desired. There is no air conditioning or heating, there are constant raids of rats and mice, there are a lot of cockroaches, it is not possible to restore order to the correctional facility.